Time now for my review of Spider-Man 2. Sorry, GB, I thought I'd nick that one from you. But yeah, today we're finally doing our review of Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 5, made by Insomniac Games. And let's get right into it. And quickly, before we actually get into the video as well, I'm going to lay some quick ground rules down real quick. This is a non-spoiler review. If you're hoping to have the story told to you, or you're worried about having the story spoiled to you, don't worry. It won't be one of them videos where you'll have the video spoiled for you for those that are interested. But for those that want to hear my opinion on the story, this is my short, and without saying anything about the story, I think it's probably my favorite story out of all the 3 games so far, and that's just personally my opinion. I love the symbiote storyline, and in my opinion, this is one of my favorite symbiote storylines as well. I think it's up there with Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3, Webs of Shadows, the 19 series. There's so many good symbiote stories out there, dude, and I think this is easily one of the best ones that has ever been done so far. And Yuri Lowenthal, I am convinced he will win an award at Game of the Year just because of how good he plays symbiote-possessed Spider-Man. And same with Tony Todd. I think he's going to win some awards as well because of how great he is as Venom. That's not really a spoiler for those that are wondering. We pretty much know Venom's in the game, and you can't have a Black Suit Spider-Man story without Venom. However, I'm not going to be telling you who is Venom. And no, before you ask, it's not Eddie Brock. But yeah, that's my short and non-spoilerish opinion on the story. I think it's amazing, and especially with Kraven, I think he was really, really good. I love Kraven's Last Hunt as a story. It's probably one of my favorite Spider-Man comics out there. From I think, was it the Todd McFarlane era that comic release? I think it was around that ballpark, I think, because I know it was the late 80s, I think. But yeah, it's a great story. This game is probably one of my favorite Spider-Man stories, and I think it's really good. And so that's my non-spoiler part of the story. If you want to hear my live raw reactions of the whole story, do feel free to watch my Let's Play that I did during the launch weekend for Spider-Man 2. Most of those streams can be up to 7 hours, but do understand I was hyped as fuck to play this game. So obviously I stayed up quite a bit to play this game, when I wanted to. So yeah, let's finally actually get into the whole thing, the actual review. So let's go. Now let's start with the first thing that I really, really liked, and that's web swinging. I think web swinging has been perfected in this game. While it was really good in Spider-Man PS4, and I thought it was a little bit better in, Miles Morales, just because obviously we had the Venom boosts and all that from Miles. I think it's been finally perfected in this game. I think this is probably the definitive Spider-Man web slinging experience. And I know there's that whole joke about, oh, it makes you really feel like Spider-Man. I'm going to be honest, it actually does make you feel like Spider-Man. Whether you're playing as Peter Parker or Miles Morales. Which, speaking of which, there are now 2 Spider-Man in this game. You get to play as the classic OG Peter Parker, who's, been in the game for about 9 years at this point, because I believe this takes a year or so after the events of Miles Morales, I believe. So, he's been at it for 9, going on to 10 years as being the wall crawler. And then we got Miles, the newcomer, who's still in the learning experience, kind of like how Peter was back when he first began as Spider-Man. But except it's obviously, somebody else that's learning the ropes this time. And I gotta say, it's fun, the banter, you can have between the 2 Spider-Men. Whether you're playing as Peter and you're trying to stop a crime and you accidentally, encounter Miles and, while you're doing it. And some of the fun little things you can do, interacting with Miles or Peter when you're playing as one of the 2, while, when you finish the crime. You can actually do the point meme that has become, pretty much a massive meme in the Spider-Man fandom in the recent years. Especially since, I think Into the Spider-Verse popularized it because of the post-end credit scene with 2099 and the 60s cartoon, But, yeah. I love the interaction between the two Spider-Men. I think they both do a phenomenal job. Both Najit Jetta as Miles Morales, and I hope I didn't butcher his name. If I did, I do apologize. And obviously Yuri Lowenthal as the legendary Peter Parker. In my opinion, this is one of my favorite Peter Parker interpretations. I know there'll be people that'll be like, "Oh, I prefer this, version of Peter Parker," but I'm gonna be honest. I think this is like the best video game version of Pete. At least in my opinion. Like, Yuri is the definitive Peter, in my opinion, for video games. Kind of like how in movies, Tobey Maguire's the definitive, Peter Parker for me, and obviously how Josh Keaton is the definitive cartoon Spider-Man, again, for me. I know there are people that probably disagree with it and probably say, "Oh no, I prefer Andrew Garfield," or "No, I prefer Christopher Daniel Barnes," or I prefer somebody else as, the Spider-Man. But for me, that's just my opinion. And again, tops off to the voice actors in this game. It's they did a really, really good job, in my personal opinion. And, it kind of makes it feel more alive, in my opinion. The dialogue between characters and the banter between, Peter, Miles, MJ, who I know there's a massive controversy about her being, a self-insert, especially with the recent developments that a lot of people have been doing. They've been trying to research why MJ looks so different. For me, I prefer how she looked in the first, and I guess Miles Morales as well. I don't know whether we really see her in Miles Morales, but I prefer how she looked before, but I'm not going to be losing any sleep because of the face change. However, I do prefer, the old face model. Kind of like with the old Peter face model. I prefer that compared to the new one we have nowadays. But, until the PC port releases, I don't see, the old face models coming back. There'll probably be a mod, because there was a mod in the first game when it came to PC, and I think even with Miles Morales as well, where they actually changed the faces of Peter Parker back to his PS4 counterpart when it came to his looks. And you know what? I can understand people if they want to change how the characters look before back, and you know what? I respect the decision that Insomniac also took with changing looks. I'm not going to lose sleep over MJ's new face. I do prefer her old model, but whether it's a self-insert or not, I don't really care, to be honest. I just prefer if the writing is good. And holy shit, in my opinion, I think the writing is amazing in this game. And I will probably be making a spoiler review as well, mainly where I just talk about the story and go into specific plot points in more detail compared to here. But goddamn, the symbiote storyline again. I'm gonna keep saying it. The symbiote storyline is amazing in this game. It is amazing. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to spoil it. I really am trying not to spoil it. But in my opinion, I love the gameplay as well. The combat, in my opinion, I know it's not very too different to the first and second game. Well, the Miles game, I guess that's considered the second game, or is it standalone? I don't know. Point is, the combat hasn't really changed too much, but that's good in my opinion. Sometimes you don't need to you don't need to fix something that's not broken. It still works. It's still fine. I still think the combat kicks a lot of ass in this game. But I love some of the new abilities as well with the new mechanics in the game. We got the nano arms. As you can see in a lot of the artwork. Peter has now basically nanotech. I think, I don't know. The best way to describe him is basically the Iron Spider arms or the Superior Spider-Man arms. And he has those now, which I like him. But I prefer the symbiote powers personally, which is another thing I just want to talk about. The symbiote powers. Oh man, it is sick, man. It gives me proper Webs of Shadows vibes every time I see, Peter pulling off a sick combo move with some of the, the Venom bombs, the Venom punch, the Venom strike, the Venom blast. all these new moves are amazing, man. And I gotta say, Insomniac, you guys freaking cooked! And you cooked some more, bro! When it came to doing the combat in this game. Like, I gotta say, goddamn. But yeah. I think the combat's really well improved. I love Miles' new abilities as well, with the Venom Strikes and all that. I think he probably used some of those... I think he used some of the same moves that he uses in this game in Miles Morales. I don't really know. I never really played Miles Morales much. And I know it's just purely because I didn't really enjoy the game. I know there'll be people that are like, what? Why didn't you enjoy it like Miles Morales? Why aren't you enjoying it? Whoa! Blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm sorry, man, but it just wasn't that fun to me, if I'm being completely honest. It was too short, and if I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't know. I think it could have, it could have been better. I mean, I know it wasn't supposed to be anything too crazy. It was more like a PS5 tech demo, if anything, for, Spider-Man 2, I guess. But I'm just gonna be honest, I prefer the new abilities that Miles gets in this game compared to how it was in Miles Morales. And that's just me, personally. But I know there'll be people that'll be like, I prefer this, I prefer that, I prefer all of this and that, but I don't know. It's just me. It's just me. Oh yeah, and the suits are pretty neat too. I almost forgot about that bit. Alright, so I guess let's get into the few cons I guess I have for this game. And I'm gonna be completely honest, it's a very, very short game. Not as short as Miles Morales, but I think the first game is a lot longer than this, if I'm being completely honest. It might be a hot take, but this feels a lot shorter compared to the first game, and I understand one argument someone will be like, oh, but the first game has DLCs. I'm not including the DLCs. I'm not including them. I am going to include just the normal game, the game mechanics, like the game's story from, start to finish, like in the beginning of the game, you're fighting the Sandman. At the end of the game, obviously you're fighting Venom. That's not really a spoiler. We pretty much know that's going to happen, but I ain't going to spoil how it happens or whatnot. But, I mean, it just felt fairly short, the game does. And after you've finished the main story and you start doing like the side stuff after that, and even trying to go for the side trophies as well to get to 100%, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like that long to do. Like it really takes not really that much time, if I'm being completely honest, and yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. Another thing I also want to complain about is also the bugs, specifically the infamous cube bug. A lot of characters, like in this game, in this clip here, you'll see like people running through walls and all that. Cars are floating for some reason. There's a lot of bugs in this game, which is kind of expected, to be honest. I mean, this has happened with a lot of recent modern games. Like, they release in such an unfinished state, like to the point where it's kind of laughable. I don't think this game is as bad as some other games that have been unfinished, but it's still kind of crazy that you have bugs where you're seeing cars floating, you got an invisible cube, you got people walking through pillars, walls, and all that. You got, Peter getting stuck to stuff, or Miles getting stuck to stuff. It's kind of not really, a good thing, if I'm being honest. And I'm just gonna be completely honest. I mean, despite my bias as a Spider-Man fan, and I love the work Insomniac has done on this game, I am not gonna turn a blind eye to these kind of bugs. I don't really think that's really good. Like, they should have been done. They should have been at least play tested and checked how bad they really were. But yeah, one more thing I actually want to talk about as well is, well, now this is a bit of a interesting bit. The political stuff. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are trying to say this game is woke and all that, and I'm sorry, Look, I'm fairly like centrist. You know, I'm sort of a bit of a conservative as well, I guess. If you get my drift. Like, I believe in a lot of things. I agree with a lot of conservative figureheads and all that. But I'm sorry, I just don't see some of the woke stuff that people are trying to say. That's going on. It's like, oh my god, you play as a deaf black girl. That's horrifying. Like, I'm sorry. I don't see the outrage in that. Now, if it was something dumb, like making the whole game, like let's say you played as Daredevil and you just couldn't see anything. I mean, I understand that's the joke people have been comparing it to, but I'm sorry. I just do not see the outrage. I mean, I know there are a lot of things that doesn't really make sense, like changing people's like sexualities or whatnot, and this, that, and the other, forcing stuff on the people, like ideologies and shit. But I'm really sorry. I just don't see the outrage. I think it's just people that are just trying to do it for clicks and all that. And it's like, if you really did care about the real issues in the world, well, I'm sorry, but you'd be out there fighting those issues. I mean, I stopped caring about this kind of shit a long time ago. I used to be one of these losers that were like, oh, this thing's woke, that thing's woke, oh, blah, blah, blah. And you know what I actually did? I did something called growing up. I grew up, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really care at this point. As long as the product's good, that's all I care. Hell, I've seen the fucking Barbie movie a couple of times, and I thought that was a good film. I don't think it was as good as Oppenheimer. I know there's the meme, Barbenheimer. But I personally prefer Oppenheimer out of that and Barbie, because I'm a history buff, I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see the outrage. I really do not see the outrage here. But, yeah. I can't really talk too much about the political stuff as well, because we go into the spoiler territory, but I'll probably talk about that more in a possible spoiler review, if there is a high enough demand for a spoiler review. But, yeah, I guess, folks, that's pretty much it for this video. Final verdict, as someone that has platinumed Spider-Man 2, I played this game when it literally released at midnight for the UK folks, and I have platinumed it, I think, once, obviously. I mean, obviously you can platinum a game once unless you replay it on a different account. I've played it once in the entire playthrough. I platinumed it once, I guess. I gotta say, probably one of my favorite Spider-Man stories in a very long time. The only issues, in my opinion, that are really there are the bugs and a lot of missing features like replaying missions or New Game Plus. Those are the only real issues I really kind of have, and I guess with, obviously, as I said, bugs. I think I already said bugs, but, not really like too much crazy shit that's gonna be like, oh no, the game's whoa, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. No. But anyway, folks, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy, do feel free to consider leaving a like. And if you're new around here, do consider subscribing. And also feel free to join my Discord servers. Link are in the description for both of them. And also follow my socials. And also, before I actually go, let me know your opinion on Spider-Man 2. Did you enjoy it when you played through the whole game? Do you think the game deserves the crown of Game of the Year for this year? Or do you think it's a bag of arse and, it's probably one of the worst things mankind's ever shut out? Honestly, let me know your honest thoughts, in the, comments down below. Because all I want is one thing and one thing only, and that's your opinion, I want to know if you guys enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, tell me why. Was it the story, the gameplay, the music? Let me know. But anyway, folks, it's been me, Kane, and I will see you all in whatever I do next. Bye, guys.